Imagine a man who rose from the streets of Vienna, a failed artist with dreams shattered, to become the architect of one of the darkest chapters in human history. His name echoes through time as a symbol of evil: Adolf Hitler. In the span of just over a decade, he turned Germany into a war machine, unleashed a global conflict that claimed over 70 million lives, and orchestrated the systematic murder of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. But how did this happen? How did one man's twisted ideology grip a nation and plunge the world into chaos? Today, we're diving deep into the dark history of Adolf Hitler, from his humble beginnings to his fiery end. Stay with me as we uncover the chilling story behind the monster. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, a small town in Austria near the German border. His father, Alois Hitler, was a strict customs official, known for his temper and heavy hand. Alois had changed his last name from Schicklgruber to Hitler years earlier, a decision that would unknowingly shape history. Hitler's mother, Clara, was kind and doting, but she suffered multiple tragedies. 3 of her children died in infancy before Adolf came along. Growing up, young Adolf was an average student at first, but he clashed often with his father, who wanted him to follow in his footsteps as a civil servant. Adolf dreamed of becoming an artist. After Alois died in 1903, when Hitler was just 14, the family moved to Linz. Clara allowed her son more freedom, but tragedy struck again when she died of breast cancer in 1907. At 18, Hitler was orphaned, inheriting a small pension that he hoped would fund his artistic ambitions. He moved to Vienna, the vibrant capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, to apply to the Academy of Fine Arts. Twice he was rejected, in 1907 and 1908. The Academy's directors told him his drawings showed talent in architecture, but he lacked the formal education to pursue it. Bitter and broke, Hitler drifted into poverty. He lived in homeless shelters and men's hostels, scraping by selling postcards he painted of Vienna's landmarks. It was here, in the underbelly of the city, that his worldview began to darken. Vienna in the early 1900s was a melting pot of cultures, but it was also rife with anti-Semitism, hatred toward Jews. Influenced by populist politicians like Karl Lueger, the mayor who preached anti-Jewish rhetoric, Hitler absorbed these toxic ideas. He blamed Jews for his failures and society's ills, seeing them as a racial poison. In his later writings, he described Vienna as the place where he became an anti-Semite. This period of rejection and hardship planted the seeds of resentment that would grow into something far more sinister. In 1913, at age 24, Hitler moved to Munich, Germany, to avoid military service in the Austrian army. He felt more at home among Germans, whom he saw as superior. But fate had other plans. When World War I erupted in 1914, Hitler eagerly volunteered for the German army. He served as a dispatch runner on the Western Front, carrying messages through dangerous battlefields. He was wounded twice, once by shrapnel and once by gas, and earned the Iron Cross for bravery. The war gave him purpose, but Germany's defeat in 1918 shattered him. He called the Treaty of Versailles, which stripped Germany of land and imposed heavy reparations, a stab in the back. He believed Jews and communists had betrayed the nation. After the war, Hitler stayed in the army as a spy, infiltrating political groups in Munich. One such group was the German Workers' Party, a small nationalist outfit. He joined in 1919 and quickly rose through the ranks with his fiery speeches. Renaming it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazis for short, Hitler adopted the swastika as its symbol and crafted a 25-point program blending nationalism, anti-Semitism, and anti-communism. Germany in the 1920s was in turmoil. Hyperinflation wiped out savings. A loaf of bread cost billions of marks. Unemployment soared, and people were desperate for change. Hitler capitalized on this anger. In 1923, inspired by Mussolini's March on Rome, he attempted a coup in Munich known as the Beer Hall Putsch. With a band of stormtroopers, he stormed a beer hall where Bavarian leaders were meeting, declaring a revolution. It failed miserably. Hitler was arrested, tried for treason, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He served only 9 months in Landsberg Fortress, where he dictated his manifesto, Mein Kampf, My Struggle. In Mein Kampf, Hitler laid out his racist ideology. He preached Aryan supremacy, claiming Germans were a master race destined to rule. Jews, he wrote, were subhuman parasites plotting world domination. He called for Lebensraum, living space, by conquering Eastern Europe and enslaving Slavs. The book sold poorly at first, but it became the Nazi Bible. Released in 1924, Hitler rebuilt the party, creating the SA, stormtroopers, for street violence, and the SS for elite protection. The Great Depression hit in 1929, plunging Germany deeper into crisis. Millions lost jobs, and the Weimar Republic government seemed weak. Hitler's Nazis surged in elections, promising jobs, national pride, and scapegoats for the pain. By 1932, they were the largest party in the Reichstag, Germany's parliament. In January 1933, President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Hitler as chancellor, thinking he could control the upstart. It was a fatal mistake. Within weeks, the Reichstag building burned down, blamed on a communist, though many suspect Nazi arson. Hitler used the fire to declare an emergency, suspending civil liberties and arresting opponents. The Enabling Act passed in March 1933, giving Hitler dictatorial powers. He banned other parties, crushed trade unions, and turned Germany into a one-party state. When Hindenburg died in 1934, Hitler merged the presidency with the chancellorship, declaring himself Führer, leader. The army swore loyalty to him personally. Hitler's regime was built on terror and propaganda. Joseph Goebbels controlled the media, flooding Germans with Nazi messages through radio, films, and rallies. Massive events in Nuremberg showcased military might and swastika banners. The Gestapo, secret police, hunted dissenters, while concentration camps like Dachau held political prisoners. Anti-Semitism became state policy. In 1935, the Nuremberg laws stripped Jews of citizenship, banned marriages between Jews and Aryans, and defined Jews by blood. Jewish businesses were boycotted, and signs reading "Jews not welcome" appeared everywhere. In 1938, Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, saw Nazi mobs destroy synagogues, loot shops, and kill nearly 100 Jews. Over 30,000 were arrested and sent to camps. It was a preview of horrors to come. Hitler rearmed Germany, defying Versailles. He remilitarized the Rhineland in 1936, annexed Austria in 1938, the Anschluss, and seized Czechoslovakia's Sudetenland through the Munich Agreement. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain called it peace for our time, but it was appeasement that emboldened Hitler. On September 1, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, using a false flag operation to justify it. Britain and France declared war, starting World War II. Germany's Blitzkrieg, lightning war tactics overwhelmed Poland in weeks. In 1940, Hitler conquered Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Paris fell in June, and Hitler posed triumphantly under the Eiffel Tower. Britain stood alone. The Battle of Britain raged in the skies, but Hitler's Luftwaffe failed to break the RAF. He turned east, invading the Soviet Union in June 1941, Operation Barbarossa. 3 million German troops stormed in, but the vast distances and Russian winter halted them at Moscow's gates. It was a turning point. The Eastern Front would become a meat grinder, costing millions of lives. In the Pacific, Hitler's ally Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in December 1941, drawing the United States into the war. Now facing a global alliance, Hitler declared war on America. But his focus remained on his obsession: exterminating Jews. The darkest stain on Hitler's legacy is the Holocaust, the genocide of 6 million Jews, plus millions more Roma, disabled people, Slavs, homosexuals, and political opponents. It began with ghettos in occupied Poland, where Jews were herded into cramped, disease-ridden areas like Warsaw. As the war expanded, Hitler escalated to mass murder. In 1941, Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing squads, followed the army into the Soviet Union, shooting over 1 million Jews in pits. But it was inefficient. At the Wannsee Conference in January 1942, Nazi leaders planned the final solution: industrial-scale extermination. Death camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor were built in Poland. Victims arrived by train, deceived into thinking they were resettling. At Auschwitz, the largest, Dr. Josef Mengele selected arrivals, able-bodied for slave labor, others for gas chambers. Zyklon B poison gas killed thousands daily. Bodies burned in crematoria. Gold teeth were extracted, hair shaved for textiles. It's estimated 1.1 million died at Auschwitz alone, mostly Jews. Survivors endured unimaginable horrors: starvation, beatings, medical experiments. Anne Frank, a young Jewish girl hiding in Amsterdam, was captured and died in Bergen-Belsen. Her diary reveals the human face of the tragedy. Hitler denied it all publicly, but internal documents show his direct involvement. He once said, "The discovery of the Jewish virus is one of the greatest revolutions. The battle in which we are engaged today is of the same sort as the battle waged during the last century by Pasteur and Koch." To him, Jews weren't people. They were a disease to eradicate. By 1943, the war turned against Hitler. The Soviets crushed the Germans at Stalingrad, capturing 90,000 prisoners. In the West, Allies landed in Italy and Normandy on D-Day, June 6, 1944. As bombs rained on German cities, Hitler's health deteriorated. Parkinson's tremors, drug addictions from his doctor. A group of officers tried to assassinate him on July 20, 1944, with a bomb in his Wolf's Lair headquarters. Hitler survived with minor injuries, executing thousands in revenge. Paranoia gripped him. He trusted no one. In 1945, the end came swiftly. Soviets encircled Berlin in April. Hitler retreated to his Führer bunker, a concrete tomb under the Reich Chancellery. As artillery shook the ground, he married Eva Braun, his longtime companion, on April 29th. The next day, April 30th, with defeat certain, Hitler poisoned his dog, then shot himself while biting a cyanide capsule. Braun took poison too. Their bodies were burned in the garden to avoid capture. Berlin fell on May 2nd. Germany surrendered on May 8th, the E-Day. The war in Europe was over, but the Pacific continued until August. Adolf Hitler's dark history didn't end with his death. The Nuremberg trials in 1945 to 1946 prosecuted top Nazis for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Many were hanged, establishing precedents for international law. The United Nations formed to prevent future wars, and Israel was created in 1948 as a Jewish homeland. Yet Hitler's shadow lingers. Neo-Nazis still march, denying the Holocaust despite mountains of evidence, photos, testimonies, camp ruins. We remember through museums like Yad Vashem in Jerusalem and Auschwitz memorials, vowing never again. What drove Hitler? A toxic mix of personal failures, wartime trauma, economic despair, and ancient prejudices. He exploited fear, promising greatness while delivering destruction. His story warns us. Democracy is fragile. Hatred spreads like fire, and silence in the face of evil allows it to grow. As we reflect on this dark chapter, let's honor the victims and commit to a world of tolerance. Thank you for joining me on this journey through history's abyss. If this moved you, like, subscribe, and share. What's your take on how such evil rises? Comment below. Until next time, stay informed and vigilant.